Hello everyone, welcome to Advice Learning. My faculty code is VM and we are again starting with the chapter that is Heredity and Evolution, the chapter 1 of Standard 10 SSC. Last time what we considered within this chapter was regarding transcription, translation, translocation. Even we also talked about evolution as well as various other factors which actually contribute to evolution. We did talk about morphological evidence, we did talk about anatomical evidence, and then finally we are coming towards the next topic called as vestigial organs. Now what do we mean by vestigial organs? Vestigial, which means any such organ which is actually not useful today inside our body. Those organs were actually useful earlier, but now as we are evolving to different environment, different foods, different habitats, those organs are actually being non-functional within your body. This doesn't mean कि वो जो organs आपके body के अंदर non-functional है वो किसी और के अंदर भी non-functional रहेंगे. For example, if you can talk about the vestigial organs, there's one vestigial organ within the human body attached to the large intestine, and that organ is called as vermiform appendix, which is present here on the large intestine. You have a large intestine in the center, okay, और उस large intestine के बीच में आपके पास रहेगा small intestine. Large intestine के ये वाले end पे आपके पास vermiform appendix रहेगा, जो appendix पहले हमारे body में भी काम करता था, and it is now even functional within herbivorous animals, but not within us. Now what is the difference here? Herbivorous animals do eat grass as well as everything from vegetables or as everything from plants, and that's raw. If it is raw, they can be able or they are able to digest the sugar called as cellulose. Why? Because vermiform appendix within your body produces one particular enzyme or else one particular protein. Just like we already talked about protein production, तो वैसे ही एक protein vermiform appendix बनाता है जिसका नाम है cellulase. Okay, grass, vegetables, everything, even leafy vegetables, they contain one sugar called as cellulose. Now cellulose is a sugar, cellulase is the protein which will be breaking this sugar. ताकि ये शुगर ब्रेक हो जाए, ग्लूकोज बाहर निकले और ग्लूकोज हमारे बॉडी को मिले एज एनर्जी सोर्स. In this way, your body was converting the cellulose from grasses and everything into sugars with the help of a protein called as cellulase. But now what has happened is we are eating everything boiled. हम लोग को कुछ भी हम लोग कच्चा नहीं खाते. We don't eat anything raw. We eat everything by boiling it first. If it is boiled, then because of that what happens is now cellulose is not digested within your body. Appendix has lost its function, or else appendix you can say it has forgot its function. It cannot now function in breaking down that cellulose from that any vegetable matter or any leafy vegetables, and therefore you cannot digest cellulose. अगर सेलुलोज आप लोग डाइजेस्ट नहीं कर सकते तो वो सेलुलोज आपके लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन के अंदर ही रहेगा, एंड दैट सेलुलोज विल बी egested out of your body, it will be removed out of your body through egestion. But what happens in herbivorous animals, for example deers have a functional vermiform appendix. उनके बॉडी में functional vermiform appendix है, and that appendix even today is digesting the foods within their body. Even it can be grass, it can be any leafy vegetables or anything which is of a herbivore family, which is eaten by herbivore family. वो सब कुछ वो लोग digest कर सकते हैं because they have a functional vermiform appendix, and that vermiform appendix is producing one protein called as cellulase inside deers, but not inside us. हम लोग वो cellulose नहीं बनाते. If we are not making cellulose, what happens is we cannot digest anything from leafy vegetables, and therefore why it is advised to eat leafy vegetables is once we eat leafy vegetables, they won't be digested, they will be inside your large intestine and they will help to remove everything outside your body. आपके body के अंदर जो भी waste रहेगा, that waste will be removed out from your body just because of that cellulose sugar which is not digested within your body. Consider another sugar called as starch. स्टार्च को डाइजेस्ट करने के लिए हमारे बॉडी के पास प्रोटीन्स है, एंड आवर बॉडी इज मेकिंग दोस प्रोटीन्स. बट सेलुलोज इज अनदर वन थिंग which is not digested because our body doesn't produce those proteins. Earlier those proteins are produced by someone else, that is called as vermiform appendix. Today it is not working. Similarly, what the point says here within vestigial organs is, you can see this point, instead of developing new structures, the existing organs within your body, they undergo gradual changes. For example, we can talk about this point regarding bats. So we all know that birds have wings, right? Birds don't have hands, but bats, they don't have wings, they have modified their hands. उन लोग ने अपना स्ट्रक्चर एक्चुअली ग्रेजुअल मॉडिफिकेशन किया, ग्रेजुअल चेंजेस किए अपने स्ट्रक्चर में. उन लोग ने नया स्ट्रक्चर नहीं बनाया बॉडी में. दे वांट टू फ्लाई, उन लोग ने अपने हाथ का ही एक्चुअली विंग बना लिया है, वो हाथ को मॉडिफाई किया, हाथ को थोड़ा सा ग्रेजुअली चेंज किया वो लोग ने. ग्रेजुअल चेंजेस, इवोल्यूशन वी ऑलरेडी नो, एंड जिसके वजह से उनके पास अभी बैट के पास एग्जैक्ट विंग्स नहीं है, हाथ के साथ विंग्स नहीं है, बट उनका हाथ ही एक्चुअली विंग की तरह काम करता है. In this way, basically you don't have the new structures coming inside your body. The existing organs which you have, they undergo slight modifications. Okay, that's about this point within the vestigial organs. Even if we can talk about, like we talked about vermiform appendix, even if we can talk about tailbone which is present at the back, the last part of your vertebral column, even that is completely vestigial. If we remove the tailbone from the body, nothing will happen to the human body. If we remove vermiform appendix from the body, nothing will happen to your body. So which means what? If all these organs are removed from your body, you will face nothing. If you remove one lung, you will face some problems. If you remove one kidney, you will face some problems. If you remove stomach, obviously there will be problems. If you remove heart, death, right? So all these organs like heart, stomach, lungs as well as kidneys are functional and they are actually working within your body. If not working, they will give you some or the other difficult conditions. But vestigial organs, as well as we talked about our tailbone, okay, vermiform appendix, similarly this one, ear pinnae, it never works inside your body. You must have seen dogs and cats do move this from where the sound is coming. If a cat is standing in front and we are at the back of the cat, and if we try and make some voices, she will move her ear towards us. Okay, cat can do that, dogs can do that, but we cannot do with our ear pin, and therefore even this is a vestigial organ. If we remove this from the body, nothing will happen to the body. So all the vestigial organs in the human body, actually they are not working. Even if they are removed, nothing will happen to the body. Vermiform appendix we talked about tailbone, we talked about this ear pinnae. Okay, and next one, if we can talk about this, just take these two fingers, the first one and the last one. Just move these two fingers and move your hand like this. You can see something which is coming here outside. It's a tendon. What do we mean by tendon? टेंडन एक ऐसा पार्ट है आपके बॉडी का जो आपके मसल्स को आपके बोन्स से कनेक्ट करता है कि योर मसल्स हियर, द फोर आर्म मसल्स आर कनेक्टेड टू योर बोन्स बिकॉज ऑफ द टेंडन which we can see here. Okay, just touch here, you can see something which is really harder, and that is tendon. Or else if you want to touch here, you can even touch here, just bend your hand like this and touch here, it will be even a tendon. But this tendon is actually working because your hand can move. This tendon here, just move these two fingers closely and just bend your hand like this, you can feel something here. These tendons were actually working within monkeys. Monkeys जो आपके पास सबसे पहले थे, and those monkeys were actually the ancestors of ours. And वो monkeys के पास ये tendons है, functional tendon है. Because of this tendon, monkeys can hang on the trees. But we cannot hang on the trees just because ये tendon हमारे body में बिल्कुल functional नहीं है. Okay, it is not functional within your body. Similarly, if we can talk about our large intestine, yes, it is functional. But what is it doing? Large intestine just does one function. जो भी body में आपने खाना खाया है, all that food will be digested by two organs majorly. Your stomach, जिसके अंदर सबसे पहले आपका food जाने वाला है. Second one, your small intestine, जिसके अंदर आपका food second time जाएगा. Once everything is absorbed from the food, now what will happen? That food, the waste part of that food will roam inside the large intestine. What large intestine does to that food? Large intestine does nothing. Large intestine just does one function, absorbing water from that food. If we ever remove large intestine from a person, that person will never die. Instead, he will never even face any such difficult conditions. The only thing is his waste will not be stored. Like for example, if our waste is made now, it can be stored within the large intestine and we can remove that waste after whenever we want. But those persons into which large intestine is removed, they cannot actually store their waste products within their body. They have to go for the washrooms every time whenever they are feeling for egestion. Okay, so in this way, your large intestine is again can be called as a vestigial organ. Not exactly vestigial, but it doesn't have any function. Even if we remove that organ, nothing will happen to the human body. All these are vestigial organs. Similarly, if you can talk about this, vestigial legs within the snake, and that snake's name is boa constrictor. Okay, उसके पास vestigial legs है, which shows us that snakes actually evolved from reptiles. I mean lizards. Lizards के पास actually functional legs है, लेकिन उन functional legs का थोड़ा सा ही part सिर्फ ये snakes के पास बचा है, and that's called as a vestigial organ. Similarly, we can see something over his eyes, right? It's an eagle, और उस eagle के eyes के ऊपर हम लोग एक blackish, थोड़ा सा blackish color का membrane देख सकते हैं. That membrane is called as nictitating membrane. Now this membrane actually protects its eyes. What if we want to protect our eyes? We will close our eyes, simple, right? But if we close our eyes, we cannot see something in front of us. They just will have that nictitating membrane over their eyes and they can see too. मतलब उनके eyes protected भी है और वो लोग देख भी सकते हैं. अगर आपको आपके eyes protect रखने हैं, you have to close your eyes, but you cannot see. Which means one advantage of protecting, but another disadvantage of not looking anything. Right? But they have both the advantages. They can protect their eyes with the help of nictitating membrane, and also they can even look with their eyes with the help of even nictitating membrane. Nictitating membrane is completely transparent, as you can see. So if anything falls on their eyes, nothing will happen to their eyes. You must be knowing about cobras, snakes, right? The one of the cobras who is also known as spitting cobra, found in India, found in Africa. That spitting cobra actually spits the venom. He never bites you. He spits the venom into your eyes. Now, if that spitting cobra has an eagle in front of him, eagle will never die, or else eagle's eyes will never be hampered there, just because eagle के eyes के ऊपर nictitating membrane है. If we are standing in front of the spitting cobra and if it spits the venom, we are done, we are blind. Okay? तो इसके वजह से हमारे आंखों के पास ऐसा कोई प्रोटेक्शन नहीं है, जबकि उनके आंखों के पास ऐसा प्रोटेक्शन है. क्या हमारे पास बिल्कुल भी नहीं है? We can see a red colored membrane here on our eyes. What is that? It's the same nictitating membrane which we have, but it is not functional. So which means nictitating membrane in these eagles are actually functional. Nictitating membrane inside our body is completely non-functional. Even in alligators and crocodiles, nictitating membrane is present. But हमारे बॉडी में जो ये पिंक कलर का मेम्ब्रेन आपको यहाँ पे दिख रहा है, it is actually non-functional. Again, a vestigial organ within the human body. So these organs are present within us. These organs are present within other animals too. Tells us that we have those as our ancestors. Okay, so which means that even vestigial organ is a proof of evolution, or else evidence of evolution. Let us move towards the next slide regarding paleontological evidence. Now, what do we mean by paleontology? Paleontology means study of fossils. You are studying any fossils. Mostly you all know that whenever you are studying a fossil, mostly it's the bone which we are studying, because bone never degenerates. All other organs will degenerate. They are softer. Bones are harder because of calcium deposition. Bones को ही हम लोग study करते हैं हमेशा whenever we want to find out paleontology. But why do we learn about paleontology? We get to know that this animal, this particular animal which is now present inside our textbooks, वो animal कितने सालों से आपके पास जिंदा है, या फिर वो animal कितने सालों से आज तक आपके पास है. Because of paleontological evidence, we do know tortoise are present since dinosaurs era, और वो लोग आज भी है. Dinosaurs were present at that era and they finally got out. Right? So ऐसे आपके पास आप लोग रिलेशंस बांध सकते हो, आप लोग ऐसे बता सकते हो कौन सा ऑर्गेनिज्म कितने सालों से अर्थ के ऊपर है, कौन सा ऑर्गेनिज्म कब चेंज हुआ, कब चेंज नहीं हुआ. All that we can tell because of paleontological evidence. But now, how to find out that a particular organism had this much age before he died? For example, if I am dead and you find my body, for example, let us say 1 lakh years. Okay, 1 lakh years. After 1 lakh years, you find my bones. So now you have to find out that when my body died, okay, when I was dead. You can do that with the help of a technique called as carbon dating. Okay, why do we say that dinosaurs were present crores of years ago? Why not hundreds of years ago? Why crores of years? Just because we have done that same technique on the bodies of dinosaurs too. Basically, on the bones of dinosaurs. How to do that technique? Firstly, it's because of these two carbons, carbon 12 and carbon 14. What do we mean by them? Okay, so this is an atom of carbon. Firstly, the nucleus. Then you have outer electrons. This is carbon. Okay, electrons 6. It has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Right? Any carbon or else any atom in our world has an atomic mass like this. Like atomic mass is equal to protons plus neutrons, which means 6 plus 6, the total number becomes 12. Simple, right? This is one carbon which is present in our world. Similarly, there is another carbon. Again, this is your electrons. Last shell, your again electrons, 4 electrons, a total of 6 electrons, same as this. Even if there are 6 electrons, there will be 6 protons. But here there is a twist. Here there are 8 neutrons. 8 neutrons. So the atomic mass of this becomes protons plus neutrons, which means 6 plus 8 is equal to 14. World में जो भी organisms है, how many organisms are there in the world? All of those organisms have this two type of carbon within their body. Even I have these two types of carbon, that is carbon 12 and carbon 14. ऐसे हर एक के body में रहता है. We can say that both are isotopes of each other, because same atomic number. What do we mean by atomic number? Number of electrons. See the atomic number here, it's 6. Atomic number here, it's again 6. So which means atomic number is same, but atomic mass is different. One is carbon 12 and second is carbon 14. ऐसे दो carbon atoms आपके body के अंदर है. Out of that, carbon 14 जिसके पास neutrons दो extra है, that carbon is actually radioactive, which means it emits radiations. Like your sun emits radiations, not exactly like sun, but your carbon 14 does emit some radiations. कि उन रेडिएशंस के वजह से कार्बन 14 अगर रेडिएशंस एमिट कर रहा है कंटिन्यूसली, तो वो धीरे धीरे आपके बॉडी के अंदर कम होने वाला है. while carbon 12 will be the same. It will never emit radiation. It is completely stable. Okay, so decaying process, which means degeneration, आपका carbon 14 धीरे धीरे body में कम होने लगता है. Why? Because it is radioactive. वो बाहर radiations छोड़ने वाला है. Okay, those radiations are called as alpha rays. Those radiations are called as alpha rays, and it will be emitting alpha rays, and therefore carbon 14 you are losing it. Carbon 12 you never lose. Sometimes, for example, let us say a body dies. After death of any body, okay, after this is the soil, for example, and if any body is dead, now that body is releasing the radiations. Okay, even if it is not eating anything, but that body is releasing radiations, और वो radiations कौन निकालने वाला है? Carbon 14. इट विल बी रिमूविंग रेडिएशंस. अगर वो रेडिएशंस बाहर निकाले तो उसका वजन कम होने वाला आपके बॉडी में. इसका वजन स्टेबल रहेगा क्योंकि वो रेडिएशंस बाहर बिल्कुल नहीं निकाला. व्हाट वी हैव टू डू इज वी हैव टू जस्ट फाइंड आउट वन रेशियो C14 is to C12, which means C14 का अमाउंट अपॉन C12 का अमाउंट. ओके, अपॉन मीन्स this ratio. Once you find out the ratio, you can get to know that this dead body was dead how many years ago. Likewise, if you get the bones of dinosaur here, if you get the fossil of dinosaur here, वो डायनासोर के बोन्स के अंदर आपको सिर्फ चेक करना है कार्बन 14 कितना है, कार्बन 12 कितना है. Once you get to know that number, you can easily find out what is the actual age of that fossil, how much years ago that fossil was present in the soil, how much years ago that dinosaur died. This is called as carbon dating. Finding out the ratio of both of this. Radioactive is to non-radioactive, right? Carbon 14 is to carbon 12. Carbon 14 has extra number of neutrons here. Carbon 12 doesn't have extra number of neutrons. It has the 6 neutrons and 6 protons. Therefore, this will ever be stable, while this will never be stable. And therefore, this actually it disintegrates, it breaks down, it releases radiations. When someone releases the radiations, it breaks down. And therefore, carbon 14 always breaks down. उसका वजन धीरे धीरे आपके बॉडी के अंदर कम होते जाता है. कार्बन 12 का वजन आपके बॉडी के अंदर उतना ही रहने वाला है. And therefore, you can find out the ratio, and then you can conclude that yes, this organism died this much years ago. This technique is called as carbon dating. You can see the ratio of this is found out every time, so that आप लोग age confirm कर सकते हो कि कितने साल पहले आपको वो organism was died. In this way, you can perform something called as paleontological evidence. So regarding this collectively, we talked about 4 evidences of evolution. First one was our morphological evidence, anatomical evidence, vestigial organs. Next one, paleontological evidence. ऐसे सब evidence के बारे में हम लोग ने यहाँ पे बोला है. Out of this, vestigial organ is really important as it can come for the 3 marks in your exams. Let us move forward. You can see this. An organism dies. उसके अलग अलग structures के अंदर हम लोग carbon 14 देखते हैं. At the time of death, you have high number of carbons, carbon 14. As you go further, 5730 years ago, which is 5700 years ago, the carbon 14 goes on decreasing. And once the carbon 14 goes on decreasing, what will happen? You can confirm the age by just having a ratio of C12 is to C14 is to C12. And by that, you can get the evidence of paleontology. Remember, paleontology means study of any fossil, any fossil. Okay, let it be this, let it be any other animal. Like in study of fossils will be regarded as paleontological evidence. After this, let us move towards the next point called as connecting links. What do we know by connecting links? If there is one organism, right? If there is one organism, let us draw a circle only. It is forming 2 different organisms. Okay, one organism is giving rise to 2 different organisms. So उस एक organism को हम लोग इन दोनों का connecting link बोलेंगे. It will be called as the connecting link between both of them. For example, you can see this first worm called as peripatus. Peripatus is a connecting link between 2, that is Annelida and Arthropoda. What do we mean by them? Annelida means worm which is segmented. Okay, even this organism has a segmented body. ऐसे segments रहते हैं उनके body के ऊपर, and thin cuticle, which means thin skin. The outer skin will be thin. कि जो उनका outer skin है, we don't have a thin skin, we have fat deposits. They don't have such, they have thin skin. Next one, parapodia. What do we mean by parapodia? They have many legs. Even your earthworm has many legs at the base. आपके earthworm के पास भी बहुत सारे legs रहते हैं. Okay, that's about Annelida. What do we mean by arthropoda? Arthropoda means joined legs. You can see such joined legs within this animal. Spider. So, इनके पास कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स जो है वो आपके पेरिपैटस के पास है. इनके पास जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स है वो भी आपके पेरिपैटस के पास है. Which means we can say peripatus is joining both of them. So which means we can say that peripatus has given rise to both of them, Annelida as well as Arthropoda. दोनों को भी आपके peripatus ने जन्म दिया है, ऐसे हम लोग बोल सकते हैं. The lizards which we found today, the birds which we find today, they both of them are due to one dinosaur which was earlier found in the world, and that dinosaur is called as Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx had a lizard-like mouth and Archaeopteryx had wings. Birds के पास wings है, lizards के पास माउथ है, जैसे इनके पास माउथ था आर्कियोप्टेरिक्स के पास. इसके वजह से हम लोग बोल सकते हैं कि आर्कियोप्टेरिक्स बर्ड से भी लिंक्ड है, आर्कियोप्टेरिक्स आपके लिजार्ड से भी लिंक्ड है. इन दिस वे आर्कियोप्टेरिक्स बिकम्स अ कनेक्टिंग लिंक बिटवीन बोथ ऑफ देम. सिमिलरली पेरिपेटस हैज पैरापोडिया मींस मेनी लेग्स लाइक अ स्पाइडर हैज मेनी लेग्स. के सो पैरापोडिया और इनका एक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक मिलता जुलता है. सेकेंडली इनके पास भी सेगमेंट्स है बॉडी के ऊपर, एनलिडा के पास भी सेगमेंट्स है बॉडी के ऊपर, तो उनका कैरेक्टरिस्टिक इनसे भी मिलता है. सो विच मींस शायद पेरिपेटस ने ही इन दोनों को जन्म दिया. Okay, peripatus can be called as a connecting link between both of them. Similarly, if we can talk about this fish called as lungfish, always remains in shallow waters. Shallow waters मतलब जहां पे पानी का बहाव ज्यादा नहीं है और जहां पे आपका पानी ज्यादा हाइट पे भी नहीं है, क्योंकि जहां पे आपका पानी कम हाइट पे रहेगा वहां पे ऑक्सीजन रहेगा, एयर का ऑक्सीजन वहां पे बहुत नजदीक रहेगा, एंड दिस फिश कैन एक्चुअली टेक दैट ऑक्सीजन कॉल्ड एज lungfish. Maybe lungfish is a connecting link between aquatic animals and terrestrial animals. Maybe यही फिश सबसे पहले आपके जमीन पे आया था, पानी से जमीन पे, और जिसकी वजह से आज हमारे पास जमीन पे रहने वाले ऑर्गेनिजम्स है, इवन इंक्लूडिंग ह्यूमंस. ओके, वी ऑल नो फिशेस हैव गिल्स, फिशेस डोंट हैव लंग्स लाइक दैट. ओके, इनके पास लंग्स है and therefore it is known as lungfish, always found in shallow waters. Even we can say उसका body fish जैसा है, मतलब वो aquatic जैसा भी है, उसके पास lungs है, मतलब वो terrestrial जैसा भी है. तो हम लोग ऐसा बोल सकते हैं lungfish is a connecting link between aquatic animals and terrestrial animals. ऐसे हम लोग के पास second example है which is of the connecting link. So connecting links basically organisms show same morphological characters. Morphology मतलब body shape. आप लोग देख सकते हैं इसके पास बहुत ज्यादा पैर है, स्पाइडर्स के पास भी सेम रहता है, इसके बॉडी के ऊपर सेगमेंट्स है बहुत सारे, वैसे ही एनलिडा के पास भी रहता है. मॉर्फोलॉजी वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. इसके पास लंग्स है, टेरेस्ट्रियल ऑर्गेनिजम्स के पास भी लंग्स रहते हैं. मॉर्फोलॉजी, ये पानी में रहता है, इवन दे आर लिविंग इनसाइड वाटर, एक्वाटिक एनिमल्स. सो व्हिच मींस दिस कैन बी कॉल्ड एज अ कनेक्टिंग लिंक बिटवीन बोथ ऑफ देम, एंड योर peripatus can be a connecting link between annelida and arthropoda. Annelida means your earthworms. Example earthworms. Okay, annelida मतलब segmented body. Segmented body, which means body के ऊपर ऐसे बहुत सारे segments रहते हैं. Okay, once you see peripatus, you can see all those segments. Even if you see earthworm, you can see all the segments like this, lines like this. Similarly, arthropoda joint legs spider के पास रहते हैं, वैसे ही joint legs इनके पास भी है, and therefore this will be called as a connecting link between both of them. This will be a connecting link between both of them. In this way, your connecting links topic becomes here an important topic for actually finding out the evidence of evolution. We are finding out the connection between some of them. Archaeopteryx, a dinosaur, was a connecting link between birds and lizards. तो वो उसके पास जो कैरेक्टर्स है वो इन दोनों के पास भी दिखते हैं, शायद इसने इन दोनों को जन्म दिया, ऐसे हम लोग बोल सकते हैं. That's about the connecting links. Let us move towards the next one called as embryological evidence. Embryo. You can see here the embryo of all the animals, but firstly we know that a sperm will always fuse with the ovum, and both of them will give rise to another cell called as zygote. This zygote is a baby of any animal. Okay, zygote of birds, zygote of lizards, zygote of cats, zygote of dogs, zygote of even humans. So हम लोग भी सब लोग एक zygote थे, और उसके बाद mothers के वो में हम लोग zygote थे, and finally we were born as a complete human. We can see a zygote of fish, I mean embryo of fish. Embryo means what? Zygote एक ही cell रहेगा like this. That zygote divides, एक सेल के दो सेल्स, दो के चार, चार के आठ, ऐसे सेल्स का नंबर बढ़ता है, and finally it gives rise to embryo. Embryo of fish, embryo of reptiles, embryo of birds, and embryo of humans. All of them have a tail, right? All of them have gills. All of them have the same head shape, which means what? शायद इन सबका एक कोई तो एक ही common ancestor है. शायद एक ही common ancestor है जिन्होंने इन सबको जन्म दिया. Okay, a common ancestor of all of them. Later you know, as you go further, जैसे जैसे embryo और ज्यादा बढ़ेगा, आप में tail lose होता है. We all know that. कि head आप में ज्यादा बढ़ता है, आप में gills lose होते हैं. Even we have gills, but later on we lose those gills. So which means धीरे धीरे बॉडी के अंदर चेंजेस होने वाले. फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर में या फिर फर्स्ट स्टेज में, प्रेगनेंसी के फर्स्ट स्टेज में सबके पास सेम टाइप ऑफ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स रहते हैं, which means all of them arise from a single ancestor. So various vertebrates, vertebrates means all of them who have this vertebral column, आपका backbone. Okay, all of those who has vertebral column show embryological development during initial stages. that embryological development is similar, which means same in everyone, and therefore we can say everyone are connected, everyone are actually having a common ancestor. Okay, gills are sometimes present in us, actually present in us at that time, but later on as we develop within the mother's womb, our gills are replaced by nose as well as throat. Okay, so ऐसे आपके body के अंदर changes आते हैं. That's about embryological evidence. Let us move forward regarding Darwin's theory of natural selection. What does this theory say? This theory says that any organism on the earth has to survive the particular conditions of the earth. अर्थ आपके सामने कंडीशन देने वाला है और उस कंडीशन को सामने आप लोग को डट के मुकाबला करना है. If you are fighting with that condition, if you are living, you will be staying on the earth. If you are not fighting with that condition, you are dead. Just for an example, we talked about dinosaurs, how they got from Earth or they wiped off from the earth. Okay, we had major such events on the earth where land was breaking down everywhere. Similarly, asteroid fall on Mexico, we did talk about that, and because of which dinosaurs went out from the earth. Dinosaurs couldn't survive that condition. If dinosaurs couldn't survive that, dinosaurs did left the earth. Similarly, ऐसा हर एक एनिमल रहता है जो हर एक एनिमल खुद को चेंज करेगा according to the various conditions on the earth. If he can change himself, he will actually survive on the earth. He will give rise to his babies और उसका population बढ़ते जाएगा. But if anyone cannot survive that, he will never be on the earth. He will never give rise to the babies, obviously, and therefore वो population will be completely wiped out. Earth always places some or the other challenges. According to those challenges, you have to evolve. You have to adapt to yourself. आपको उसकी आदत लगानी पड़ती है. If you can adapt, you are actually passing out natural selection. Natural selection means what? Nature only selects those who are fittest for survival, not smarter, who are fitter for survival. If they are fit, they will survive. If they are not fit, if they are not bringing changes within their body, they won't survive. The survival of the fittest. Similarly, competition among all the organisms, competition for food. Similarly, competition for shelter, competition for even reproduction. We must be doing that. Just if you ever see Discovery Channel or this Animal Planet Channel, वहाँ पे आप लोग ने देखा रहेगा बहुत बार, 2 lions fight for 1 territory. एक टेरिटरी के लिए 2 लायंस एक साथ झगड़ा करते हैं. जो लायन जीतेगा वो लायन उस टेरिटरी को लेगा, जो लायन नहीं जीतेगा he will be let out. वो वहां से जाने वाला है. He will not be having his territory, or else we can say he lost his territory, he lost his shelter. In this way, you have various such characteristics within the organisms. Always there is a competition. और वो competition हमेशा आपके पास रहने वाला है. जो भी उस organism के उस competition के हिसाब से adapt करता है खुद को, that particular organism will be actually surviving. He will be surviving. Remaining everyone, they do perish. Perish means वो लोग खत्म हो जाते हैं. Okay, Earth always places some challenges. आपके पास ऐसे challenges है जिसकी challenges की वजह से humans are actually there. Like for example, temperature of the Earth was increasing. Humans lost hairs. Therefore, we don't have fur like monkeys do. Right? हम लोग के पास ऐसा fur नहीं है. And therefore, we are actually having something called as natural selection. Similarly, Darwin's theory, because of this, was widely accepted. डार्विन का थियरी ने उसमें कभी किसी बात का प्रूफ नहीं किया था, but he actually stated everything, and that statements are actually becoming true. Even if you can see at this particular statement, the birds everywhere. Okay, some birds didn't know to fly. For example, ostrich, वो fly नहीं कर सकता, he can run, and therefore he adapted to the environment. He lives mostly in desert conditions, and therefore he adapted to that particular environment. Penguins, for example, they don't have the ability to fly, but they have the ability to swim. They can swim. Right? They are living in colder conditions, because of which they change themselves. उन्होंने अपने बॉडी के अंदर फैट का कवरिंग लाया था. Because of that fat covering, they won't die under those chilled conditions. If we take one ostrich and put it in Antarctica conditions, he will die. Just because ostrich doesn't have such fat layers over his body and he cannot survive. Even if we go to Antarctica, we will die. Minus 58 degrees Celsius is unsuitable for us. It's completely suitable for these animals just because they have that fat layer. They brought that fat layer. They adapted themselves or they modified themselves. अगर लोग ने खुद को मॉडिफाई किया है, they can survive in this particular conditions, otherwise they cannot. Similarly, insectivorous plants, जो plants actually insects को खाते हैं. Last year we did study about one bacteria. Let us just draw one plant here. Okay, consider there's a plant here, and this plant actually requires always, any plant requires this, that is nitrogen. Last year in the chapter called as useful and harmful microbes, we studied about one microbe, rhizobium. Even we'll be studying about this in the 7th chapter. Rhizobium, we already know, it converts your nitrogen to nitrates and gives it to the plant so that plants can produce proteins. लेकिन अगर rhizobium soil में नहीं है, plants cannot produce proteins. What do these plants do? इन plants के आजू बाजू में राइजोबियम नाम का बैक्टीरिया नहीं रहता, सॉइल में राइजोबियम नहीं रहता. अगर सॉइल में राइजोबियम नहीं रहेगा तो ये प्लांट्स क्या करते हैं, इनको नाइट्रोजन मिल नहीं सकता. व्हाट दे विल डू, they will take the nitrogen from the insects. They do eat insects. For example, you must be knowing about Drosera plant. It's an insectivorous plant, which means it eats insects. अपने फ्लावर्स के ऊपर, अपने लीव्स के ऊपर एक स्टिकी लिक्विड लगाते हैं, जिस स्टिकी लिक्विड को दे डिस्गाइज एज नेक्टर. नेक्टर वी ऑलरेडी नो, फ्लावर्स हैव अ शुगरी सॉल्यूशन टू अट्रैक्ट द इंसेक्ट. That sticky solution is actually the nectar. It contains sugars, and whenever an insect sits on that sugar, it gets sticked. It tries to get off from that sticky layers, but even if it tries, he will be glued to that layer, which means what, वो चिपका रहेगा उस solution को. धीरे धीरे आपका फ्लावर धीरे धीरे से बंद होता है, इंसेक्ट को अंदर लेगा, फ्लावर्स अंदर कुछ प्रोटीन्स बनाएंगे जिसकी वजह से इंसेक्ट का बॉडी कंप्लीटली डाइजेस्ट होता है. इंसेक्ट का बॉडी डाइजेस्ट हुआ, अगले 14 डेज के बाद फ्लावर एक बार वापस ओपन होगा. वंस द फ्लावर ओपन्स, अगेन द फ्लावर इज इन सर्च ऑफ न्यू इंसेक्ट. ओके, तो फ्लावर को आराम से वहां पे इंसेक्ट्स मिलने वाले. जस्ट बिकॉज फ्लावर इज ऑलवेज प्रोड्यूसिंग समथिंग कॉल्ड एज नेक्टर, इंसेक्ट्स are getting fooled. They think that that nectar is actually something which is edible, something which can be eaten, but that nectar is highly sticky, because of which the insect will die. Sometimes insect का जो nerves रहता है, मतलब insect का जो respiratory tract रहता है, वहाँ पे वो sticky liquid चिपक जाता है. अगर यहाँ पे चिपक गया तो वो लोग सांस नहीं ले सकते. They cannot perform respiration. Even then they will be dying. In this way, this flower has the exact mechanism of getting nitrogen, even if it doesn't have rhizobium around it. Rhizobium अगर उसके आजू बाजू में नहीं रहेगा तो ऐसा नहीं है कि plant को nitrogen नहीं मिलेगा, plant will die. No, plant has adapted to one mechanism where he will be eating insects. प्लांट ईट्स इंसेक्ट, मतलब क्या, प्लांट ने खुद को मॉडिफाई किया. अगर कोई ऐसा खुद को मॉडिफाई नहीं कर सकता, दैट प्लांट विल डाई. इफ समवन इज मॉडिफाइंग इटसेल्फ, दैट प्लांट विल सर्वाइव ऑन द अर्थ. दैट्स व्हाट वाज टोल्ड बाय Darwin's theory of natural selection. He always tells that every organism on the earth is basically adapted to that particular condition, and if he is adapted to a particular condition, he can survive. If someone fails to adapt, that organism will die, confirm. Okay, that's about Darwin's theory. Let us talk about the next points about the Darwin's theory. What are the drawbacks of his theory? Firstly, natural selection is not the only reason for evolution. कभी कभी आपके पास म्यूटेशंस भी रहते हैं, जैसे हम लोग ने म्यूटेशन के सेक्शन में बोला था कि आपके पास कुछ कुछ म्यूटेशंस भी है, जो म्यूटेशंस एक्चुअली रिस्पॉन्सिबल है आपको एक्चुअली इवॉल्व करने के लिए, आप में चेंजेस लाने के लिए. सिर्फ नेचुरल सिलेक्शन वहां पे कुछ नहीं करेगा. आफ्टरवर्ड्स, नो एक्सप्लेनेशन फॉर यूजफुल एंड यूजलेस मॉडिफिकेशंस. Some organisms has useless organs within them. For example, we have our vermiform appendix. Why do we have still? Why it didn't went away? We don't know. And that wasn't explained by Darwin. Next one, no explanation about slow and abrupt changes. कोई organisms में slowly changes होते हैं, एक के बाद दूसरा, दूसरे के बाद तीसरा, धीरे 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 changes होने वाले. Sometimes and abrupt. Okay, एक ही organism में अचानक changes आ जाते हैं और वो changes की वजह से उनको हम लोग बोलते हैं abrupt changes. He did not explain about those changes, why they were slow as well as they were fast. But still, Darwin's theory is a milestone in evolution. It's a milestone, which means what? This theory actually proves many things. Because of this theory, we can get an answer to many things regarding evolution. You can see one of the fish here. This fish is called as cave fish, found in this river, one of the largest rivers in the world, second largest river in the world, found in South America. Both of these fishes, this is the surface dwelling population, this is the cave dwelling population. Surface dwelling population मतलब क्या? अगर यहाँ पे आपका पानी है, if this is the cave which you have, for example within the water, right? If this is the cave and surface के यहाँ पे रहने वाले fishes will be called as surface dwelling population. Caves के अंदर रहने वाले fishes, एक गुफा के अंदर रहने वाले fishes will be called as cave dwelling population. यहाँ पे अगर आपके पास cave है तो obvious है वहाँ पे light नहीं रहने वाला है, ऊपर surface के ऊपर sunlight रहेगा, and therefore these fishes have eyes. You can see surface dwelling population they have eyes. The cave dwelling population they didn't have eye. उनके पास eye है ही नहीं, because यहाँ पे अंधेरा है, उनको eyes की जरूरत नहीं है. अगर eyes रहते तो eyes को energy देना पड़ता था, उतना energy उनके पास रहेगा ही नहीं, they lose their eyes. उनके पास eyes है ही नहीं. If you ever go to Amazon river, you can see these two populations of cave fishes. First one having the eyes, second one they don't have the eyes, they have lost their eyes. They have modified themselves again according to the environment. In this way, all these organisms do perform such various adaptations according to the conditions so that they can survive there with higher energy and they have the ability to reproduce. Even if we can talk about these islands, one of the islands, और इन islands के ऊपर जो लोग रहते हैं, those people can survive for about 15 to 20 minutes inside water. 15 to 20 minutes in water. Why they can survive for this much long? They have adapted themselves. उनका जो यहाँ पे जो organ रहता है called as spleen. Last year we studied in the 17th chapter about lymph organs. Spleen आपका एक lymph organ है जहाँ पे lymphocytes बनते हैं. तो उनका जो spleen है, बजाव के जो लोग हैं, बजाव आइलैंड्स के ऊपर जो लोग हैं, उनका जो स्प्लीन है वो साइज में बहुत बड़ा है, एंड देयरफॉर दे कैन सर्वाइव फॉर अ लॉन्गर टाइम इनसाइड वाटर. बट अदर पीपल लाइक अस, वी कैन नॉट सर्वाइव इवन फॉर अ मिनट. दे हैव दैट एडेप्टेशन विद इन देम. उनके अंदर वो एडेप्टेशन आ चुका है. In this way, there are various such adaptations seen in the world by many organisms. They are shown because of which those organisms can survive. They go inside water to catch fishes. You must be knowing that. Okay? After that, let us move towards the next topic called as Lamarckism. What do we mean by Lamarckism? Lamarck is another scientist, Jean Lamarck, who actually said that every organism losing its organs or is losing its particular character is just because of laziness. For example, he said that ostrich was lazy to fly. Ostrich was lazy to move its wings, and therefore ostrich के wings गायब हो गए, मतलब छोटे हो गए. आयरन स्मिथ आप सब लोग को पता रहेगा, जो लोहार रहता है, जो लोहे का चीजें बनाता है, लॉक्स एंड एवरीथिंग. सो दैट आयरन स्मिथ एक्चुअली यूजेस हैमर एवरी टाइम टू एक्चुअली bring that pressure on that metal, on that iron metal. So his muscles get developed. अगर उसके पास ऐसे डेवलप मसल्स रहेंगे तो उसके बेबी के पास, उसका जो आने वाला बेबी रहेगा, उस बेबी के पास भी डेवलप मसल्स ही रहने वाले, इवन इफ दैट बेबी डजंट परफॉर्म एनी सच मूवमेंट ऑफ हिज हैंड. ओके, दैट्स व्हाट Lamarckism said. फॉर एग्जांपल, neck of giraffe. You can see giraffe tried to eat the leaves of the upper side and therefore he developed that neck. क्योंकि उसने neck को आदत लगाया तो उसके पास वैसा neck आ गया, and therefore अभी जिराफ का जो बेटा है, जिराफ का जो बच्चे आएंगे, उन बच्चों को अपनी neck बड़े करने की जरूरत नहीं है, उनके पास पहले से ही बड़ा neck रहेगा. ऐसे लेमार्क बोलता था. Similarly, shoulder of iron smith. If I am the iron smith and if I am hitting on the iron, for example, if I am making something from that iron, so which means my hand will be developed, my muscles will be developed, so my babies will be having developed muscles since birth. ऐसे उसने बोला था. But this is completely wrong, which was being proved, and therefore उसने क्या बोला था कि आप लोग के जो भी कैरेक्टर्स है, जो आप लोग ने बनाए हैं मतलब कि आपके पास बचपन से नहीं थे. आयरन स्मिथ जब शोल्डर यूज करेगा तभी उसके पास बड़े बड़े मसल्स आने वाले. ये जब बड़े बड़े ट्रीज के लीव्स को खाने के जाएगा तभी ही उसके पास बड़ा नेक आने वाला है. Okay, so all these characters are called as acquired characters. आप लोग ने लिए हैं, वो आपके पास बचपन से नहीं थे, इनबॉर्न नहीं थे. They are acquired characters. Okay, and they are transferred from me to other. Just for an example, Sachin Tendulkar learned cricket, so which means it is an acquired character. Sachin Tendulkar को बचपन से पता नहीं था क्रिकेट क्या रहता है. So it's an acquired character within Sachin Tendulkar. Lamarck says if Sachin Tendulkar knows cricket, his son, which means Arjun Tendulkar, will be knowing cricket since birth. ऐसे उसके बोलने का मतलब है. But this is wrong. Arjun Tendulkar even has to practice bowling, even has to practice batting too. Arjun Tendulkar cannot learn cricket since birth. That's what was said by Lamarckism, and इसके वजह से उसका जो theory था, that theory was completely disproved. What he said was actually all the organisms on the earth, they get a particular character within them, and that character is due to acquired character. Acquired मतलब वो लोग ने कुछ तो सीखा है वहाँ पे. Iron Smith learned to hit that hammer on the iron. Sachin Tendulkar, for example, learned cricket, और उसके वजह से Sachin Tendulkar's son will be knowing cricket. Okay, he doesn't need to practice, he will be knowing cricket. Giraffe actually got a longer neck, and therefore his babies will be having a longer neck since birth. ऐसे Lamarck ने बोला था. But his theory was completely disproved because we all know कि आपने जो कैरेक्टर सीखे हैं वो कभी भी आगे ट्रांसफर नहीं हो सकते. If Sachin Tendulkar has learned cricket, his son won't learn cricket without practicing it. He needs to practice. So which means what? Every acquired character within your body is actually due to practice or else due to laziness, like what Lamarck said. Laziness के वजह से ostrich lost his wings, and therefore ostrich can even only run, he cannot fly. That's what was said by Lamarck, but that theory was completely disproved. वो theory completely हम लोग ने बिल्कुल उसको परमिशन नहीं दिया था, या फिर वो theory हम लोग ने डिस्प्रूव किया था जस्ट बिकॉज ये सब कुछ जैसे लेमार्क ने बोला है वैसे एक्चुअली नहीं होता. बिकॉज ऑल दिस विल बी इनसाइड योर बॉडी बिकॉज ऑफ एक्वायर्ड कैरेक्टर्स. व्हेनेवर यू विल लर्न दोस कैरेक्टर्स ओनली देन दिस कैरेक्टर्स कैन बी विद इन योर बॉडी. सो इन दिस वे वी टॉक्ड अबाउट Lamarckism too. So as a summary for today's session, what we talked here was regarding various evidences of evolution. Last time we talked about morphological as well as anatomical evidence. This time we came towards vestigial organs. We talked about all the types of vestigial organs within the human body, like ear pinnae, tail bone, as well as our vestigial organ, that is vermiform appendix. Similarly, we didn't talk about this tendon too, right? We know about this tendon as a vestigial organ, functional within monkeys but not functional within us. After that, we came towards another point called as paleontological evidence, study of fossils. You have two types of carbon there, carbon 14 and carbon 12. Carbon 14 has 8 neutrons, 6 protons. The proton as well as electron number never changes. The neutron number changes. And because of which you have carbon 14 and carbon 12. Carbon 14 carbon 12 का ratio find out करने के बाद you can do something by which you can know the age of that fossil, which means you can do carbon dating. After carbon dating, we came towards another topic within this chapter, that is about embryological evidence. Embryos of every organism in the initial stage are same, but later on they get different, right? So the initial stage, we can say all of them are connected, all of them have a common ancestor. We talked about birds, we talked about reptiles, we talked about humans. Similarly, we talked about even fishes. After that, we came towards next point called as Darwin's theory of natural selection, an important topic within our chapter. This Darwin's theory of natural selection tells us that nature will select only those organisms who are fittest to survive, not smartest, not strongest, nothing, fittest to survive any particular condition. They will adapt according to the changes within the environment. We talked about the Bajau Islands, the people who can stay for about 15 to 20 minutes underwater. We also talked about Drosera plant, an insectivorous plant. As it was not getting nitrogen from the soil, it started using insects as a source of nitrogen for their food. Similarly, we also talked about Lamarckism, where we did say that Lamarckism tells us that every acquired character, मतलब जो हम लोग ने सीखा है, acquired character will be transferred to the next generation, and therefore Lamarck's theory was completely disproved. In the upcoming session, we'll be taking at another actually examples of your selection as well as your theory of evolution, and lastly we'll be talking about the human evolution. Till then, thank you for attending this session. Keep learning, keep growing.